Now, the LPG Marketers Association have shut down their gas stations across the country in protest of a ban on the construction of new stations. They say they are not reopening the stations until they receive a positive feedback from government concerning the suspension of construction of gas stations across the country. According to them, they had sunk more than $10 million into the construction of new stations before the ban by the NPP government in 2017, and not lifting it is killing the industry. The president of the association, Gabriel Kumi, says government is doing this because it wants to roll out its cylinder recirculation policy, describing it as a bad way of attempting to create a new industry at the expense of an existing one. He spoke to me earlier.
The main issue bothering and confronting all these associations is the $10 million that our members have sunk on the ground in the name of constructing LPG stations that a ban has been placed on. For the past 5 years, we are not able to finish these projects and recoup the investment made in them so we can repay the loans we've taken from the bank. We had been given various permits over the years, and we have started construction. And we have sunk a lot of borrowed funds into these projects. So allow us to complete those ones, so that if you issue instruction to MPA to say that, look, from today, don't issue any new permit to anybody to construct LPG station in Ghana, we go by that. But those that we have been given permit by fire permit, EPA permit, MPA no objection permit, MPA construction permit, and all that, and we have begun construction. Please give us that leeway so that we'll be able to construct those stations so we can recoup the investment and repay our loans to the bank. And my brother, we've been fighting this for 5 good years. We don't seem to achieve any results. For a businessman in this era of COVID-19 and Russia-Ukraine war, in this difficult time, for a businessman to wake up in the morning and say, I'm locking up my business, that fits me. It tells you that something big is chasing that person. And that is where we've gotten to now. We didn't have to get here. We have written letters to the ministries, to MPA, and even to cabinet, to consider indigenous Ghanaians who have invested $10 million on the ground. Where is our support for the private sector that we always talk about? LPG is the only industry in Ghana that has 100% local content in terms of participation. The LPG downstream is 100%. Now in Ghana, even Kelewele selling and Bayayachi is being taken over by Chinese. We cannot go to cabinet to spill our grievances. We can only do that through our regulator like MPA and then through the ministry. If these people are presented what they need to present and it's not being adhered to, maybe cabinet is not understanding the magnitude of the situation. So maybe such actions, when the general public began to speak, cabinet will listen to us.
So what do you think is causing the reluctance on the part of cabinet to listen?
Your guess, I don't know. I can't tell. I can't tell that you have your indigents. You have a local industry like the LPG downstream industry, made up of indigenous Ghanaians, 100%. The LPG industry in Ghana has been built by indigenous Ghanaians. When we started LPG in Ghana, the foreign companies like the Totals and the Shells were involved. They all chickened out because of the sensitive nature of the product, because of the difficulty in trying to market and distribute that product. It took the ordinary Ghanaian to stand tall, and we have built the industry over the past 25 years to where it is today. So as to why cabinet doesn't want to, we understand government wants to introduce a new policy, cylinder recirculation policy. That is why all these things is going on. But you don't destroy your existing industry just because you have the intention of introducing a new one. How sure are you the new one you are going to introduce will succeed or will fail? You have a bird in hand. You have an industry that employs about 7,000 direct labor, 7,000 Ghanaians. So even if you have an intention to introduce a new one, must you destroy the existing one? Now consumption of LPG is on the decline.
So when are you reopening the stations?
It's an indefinite strike that we have embarked on, not until we get something positive from. This is a legitimate demand. I'm sure you are convinced, that the way you are nodding, you're convinced that we are making a very legitimate demand.
Joining us on phone is Mohammed Kudus, who is the communications manager for the NPA, which is the regulator for this industry. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, why has government decided not to allow the construction of gas stations, which were in progress before this ban?
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Let me say good morning to you. Good morning to your cherished viewers. Regrettably, I don't speak for government. I speak for NPA. And so if the question is asked, why as government, I believe that I'm not in the capacity.
Well, you are an agency of government. You are the regulator of this industry. And so whatever is happening to it is communicated through you. And that's why I'm asking, why is this happening?
Yes, so like you, we all heard from Gabi. It is a decision that was taken after the atomic junction in it. And it was a decision that was taken by cabinet and government for that matter, not the National Petroleum Authority. And so the decision is taken and then communicated to us, even though we are the regulators for the industry. It is not going to be easy for me to categorically state what government position is today. What I know is that the incident happened and everybody was actually awakened to the dangers of the industry and the need to properly regulate it so that if we are not able to completely eliminate the consequences that come with this accident, we're able to reduce the impact of same to the barest minimum. And that was the reason for which the decision was taken that, okay, at that time, let's suspend the licenses and permits for the construction of more filling stations so that we all take stock of the industry, look at what is going to be the best way forward to guarantee the security and safety of the industry. And that is what actually led to that particular determination. When the sanction would be suspended, I'm not too sure I can comment on that because, like I said from the beginning.
So as a regulator of the industry, since this decision was taken in 2017, up until now, it's been more than 5 years. What have you done, or what has been done to ensure that the construction can kick off, bearing in mind the standards that are supposed to be followed to prevent what happened?
Yeah, so in fact, there has been a stakeholder engagement or committee kind of that was put together to look at the way forward. There have been some evaluations, some advice that have actually gone to the ministry and cabinet for that matter. Unfortunately, I will not be able to put that out to the public because, as it were, it remains a report or an advice that went to the minister and cabinet for that particular matter. We're trying to do a lot, as it were, to get not just the people who have had their investment locked up in the construction of those particular filling stations, but to bring the proper sanity to the operations of the industry so that at least there would be a win-win situation for all of us. If you think the kind of investment that we're talking about in the construction of a gas filling station, and then in a minute it is consumed by fire, I'm not too sure it would actually be anything palatable to any investor at all. So we are minded by that situation. We are minded by the issue of how investments have been locked up, and are hoping to get a solution that would be good for all of us. But like I said, I'm not able to speak directly to the timelines because
that's fine. But now we are, because of this whole thing, the gas stations have closed and they are not operating, and it's affecting how consumers like myself, like the one who's watching us now, is having access to gas. So what are you doing to ensure that this does not bring any untold hardship on the citizenry?
Yeah, so when the signals were sent as of Friday last week, immediately over the weekend, we tried to call for a meeting to have an understanding of where we are and where we're going from the concerns that they were raising. And we scheduled to have the meeting that was yesterday at 10 a.m. My information is that the parties involved, the Tanker Drivers Association, the LPG Marketers Association, said they had the notice very short and they could not make it. I believe that anytime soon we'll probably be meeting again and be able to bring it to a closure so that we can get the industry back on course. It is something that is going to affect everybody in the country because of the critical nature of the product. And obviously, it will have to take a dialogue. It will have to come to people meeting at the round table to take a decision so that we'll be able to move forward from here. And that is why we are urging them and we want to urge them using your medium and equally urge you to add your voice to it, to get to the discussion table. I think that is where people can put everything on the table, then we can move forward from that. The decision for which was that led to the suspension of the construction was actually for a good reason. It's interesting that the central team to the whole strike that started with Tanker Drivers Association is a bit fading, and now the construction is taking the lead stage. That is
because of that, the stations have also closed down. People are not having access to gas, and it has already started biting. I've had a text message from someone who bakes, and he says he got short, he went to the market, he didn't get it. So people are already feeling the brunt. That's why I'm asking that what is that strategic thing the MPA is doing to ensure that it doesn't even bite them all?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, that we're hoping to get a closure on it yesterday if the meeting had actually come up. But unfortunately, we're not able to have it. We are working at them to get them to the table. Because if you're not able to get them to the table, solution is going to really be difficult to arrive at. So that's why we're urging that let's get to the table. You see, there are competing interests that inform decisions that are taken ultimately. It is not just one of the interests. So if you decide that somebody has spoken and has called for the lifting of the ban on the construction, then the next moment you see people then start also to strike and say that we don't want this filling station at this place, we don't want it at that particular place. So we need to marry all of the competing needs and be able to arrive at a long-lasting solution than to heed to one only to be confronted by the other. And that's why we're urging that let's come to.
Well, Abdul Kudus, the persons whose business relies on access to gas is probably asking, so what time are you getting these people to the table so that my business is not affected that much?
So I agree with you. Because of the urgency that we are attached to this, minded by the consequences of the non-supply of the product. That's why we didn't even wait for the strike to start on Monday. Immediately we heard the alarm bells being rung as of Friday. As of Sunday, we sent notices. Now look, we are partners in this industry. These are issues that you are bringing. Come to the table, let's discuss them. Like I said, for some want of one inconvenience or the other, they were not able to make it up to the meeting. We're hoping that we'll do it as soon as possible and be able to get the industry back online so that the consumers are not badly affected as you've just illustrated.
Abdul Kudus, I really appreciate you, but the fact is that as soon as possible does not serve me right if I'm planning for my company, if I'm planning for my business. So do we have a definite time at which the MPA is working towards to ensure it gets these people to the table to agree on something so that my business is not affected that much? As soon as possible, it doesn't cut it for me.
Because if we had had the meeting yesterday, probably by this time, this whole issue we are talking about would have been history. It is because the meeting was not able to be convened and proper representation made at the table. That is why we probably are still talking about the matter. It was something that we anticipated. anticipated that the parties would come to the meeting yesterday, and by now we wouldn't have been having the issue on hand and still be discussing it most probably. But like I said, it is because the meeting didn't come. Because ultimately to drive at this particular solution is to get the meeting. To ask me of timeline would be difficult because, like I stated earlier, we communicated hoping to have the meeting yesterday. It didn't come up. I don't know whether the meeting would be heeded to and they would be coming to table for the meeting. I don't have that communication yet. After the aborted meeting yesterday, this was the briefing I had. And since morning, I've actually been speaking to you guys in the media trying to...
Thank you very much. Mohammed Abdul Kudus is Communications Manager for the National Petroleum Authority, regulator of the downstream gas industry. Now, some residents of the Ashanti region are kicking against the government's decision to roll out a self-service app for SIM card re-registration. Later today, the government will be launching a self-service application for SIM card re-registration. The app is intended to ease congestion at registration centers. At a press conference on Sunday, Communications Minister Esla Owusu-Ekufo announced the app will attract a surcharge of 5 Ghana cedis. Although some residents deem the decision as prudent, others argue the app should have been introduced in the event of the exercise.
Why did they delay in developing the app? I think this will be a problem considering the education level and the network accessibility of some Ghanaians in the rural areas.
The whole day, 2 days, 3 days.
After people wasted their time at the telco offices, they have now developed an app. If we were asked to pay 50 cedis at the initial stage, I won't be bothered.
What the date is watching? Watching now, they're welcome. That's how we do when says or the apple bar. That I don't know what I did. Or the apple bar, that's a wood 50 cedis to crown and can be any problem because me, Ghana Cardinal. Maybe immediate 2020 up to now and by.
I think the introduction of this app is going to help very well, simply because most of we as citizens, we don't have time at work. So when we spend all our time, there was this time when I went to the MTN office to register my SIM. I spent almost half a day there. So if the app was to be available by then, I would have used the app to register my SIM. It's very good.
Sir, register no more register no. One, if I should be any so. Two, we have a deadline to so. A summer trophy so be of the beer, Namu man,
There is no need registering for the SIM card. There shouldn't be a deadline for registering.
If it's as a demand in the I'm beside officer. Nina come with one way somewhere. There's some office so be a ban my mana on 2 symbols of beer in
online. You love young soon. You love young soon. Is it what's the SIM registration? What's the call online? Now, a good one or dear part of us or dear Ghana for Papa, not dear part of us or dear. As what catch me say, me Uber register me, traffic register me, saying to your first now. Who say Robin, I don't rob me.
Why would I pay 5 cedis for registering my SIM?
Yes, so let's say Martin Obijana Jumaho and Nopa. Yeah, and you may be no Mukrana, you may be crazy upon that the Achino assign Aquasan Lie. This was what the app neighbor, the what you have 5 cedis now. Why?
I think it's a good initiative by the government.
Because I did see the phobia, but the idea is very important on concentrating. Me about 06 cramming shabby.
Now, many farmers feel middlemen buy their produce at cheaper price and overprice them on the market. In these hard economic times, a couple in the Ashanti region took a firm decision to retail their goods directly to consumers in order to maximize profit. In today's edition of our Living Standard series, Love FM's Emmanuel Bright Kweku interacted with Kwame Bulsa and Tani, a couple who are poised to pinch every penny of their profit.
Menso me ba semeti hoi omuto na akokisia kakra na makofi na makochi menkatia na mabro no
ene ketwa all the 7 years obaji 3 cedi.
It's almost midday, and Kwame Bul Isa and his wife, Tanine, have come to the roadside to sell the ears of corn cultivated from their farm. Kwame left Sandema in the Upper East region some years ago in search of greener pastures down south. After years of struggles, he landed in the Duase Praso community on the outskirts of Konongo. My mom died when I was young. I became depressed that I had to flee the village and come to Kumasi. I was sleeping on tables when I came to Kejetia, so I decided to come here to work on a farm. Kwame has since been cultivating on his piece of land at the village. He tells me it is his only source of income, but he has recently resorted to selling boiled corn weekly after recent proceeds from the farming business yielded lower profits. I am not getting enough. I cannot sell until next week when I get some of the maize from my farm. So I can't really tell how much I'll be earning by the end of the month. Boiled corn is a favorite and heavy dessert for folks at the village, but Kwame's corn, pegged at a minimum price of 1 Ghana cedi, still costs an arm and leg for some of his customers. His patrons haggle for a reduction, and that, he says, is incurring him some losses.
2 cedi, 1 cedi, 50 pesos. And no.
Some people buy the 2 cedi corn at 1 cedi or even lesser. Some even buy on credit. So I only get 50 Ghana from the 100 Ghana profits I'm supposed to get. It's because they do not have money. Someone is even selling cassava just across the road, but since morning she's not been able to sell enough. If they do not get money, they will not be able to cater for their family. His wife, Tanir, joined him from the village some years ago. The couple have 3 children, 2 already enjoying the free senior high school policy. Kwame deems the policy as a relief, but he says the meager income is unable to cater for his family of 5.
All the 7 years, obaji 3 cedi. Panyina wo ho a 1 year 12 years to 13 to 14.
My youngest child used to take 1 Ghana cedi, but she is now taking 3 Ghana cedi. The other one at home doesn't take 3 Ghana cedis, but 4 Ghana cedis.
Give 4 cedi. Now we na give 3 cedi. Week, 2 weeks to Bushumi. Ejuma bene and to SS. Ono obaba ono be fafo no dia fra so she ebia 100 Ghana. We 100 Ghana.
Those in SHS are also claiming yes, the food at school doesn't satisfy them, so I always have to be sending them money.
but I never say near Manaya Dino and Adriano and Sumo. And here I know a fete kakra, and now to be an assay 2 days be so pushing is kakra. No, no, some fancy na accommodina, no, Adriano Suma, no, Cope kakra.
The incessant increase in transport fares has compounded his woes.
Anna ye Lord of Yadin, one woman Biasa, Quan Wabia, and she tells the Gitsi, Ovine, Fasidi, Ebra, Obetimia.
The transport fares are also expensive now. From here to Konongo is almost 20 Ghana cedis.
The show for cars is 1 could 20 Ghana, want to mean Kohoma. Ukwa Obasa 20, Sa Lord of Yanua beginning now.
As a supportive wife, Tanil sometimes trades roasted corn and tiger nuts to generate additional income for the family. But she says profits from her petty trade is not enough to cushion her family against the current economic hardship.
There's no job here, so this is what we do. I sometimes sell roasted corn and tiger nuts. Even with that, I don't get enough.
1 million. Obi ani hanuma wo be ko kwa promona sia kura 500 kura wonya na wasamba ntuna maja chi na mere me fomu jumano.
She is now unable to send some cash to her family at Sandema as she normally would.
The first day anya didn't say no necessity first no meteme busume kura yeteme mana.
I can't send money home anymore.
A farmer's prayer has always been to have more rains on his farm, but now they are seeking torrential rains of money to grease their pockets.
Now, human and other economic activities in the Lower Menya and Yellow Krobo municipalities in the eastern region have been grounded to a halt. Residents of Yellow and Lower Menya Krobo municipalities in the eastern region have been plunged into the darkness since Wednesday, July 27, 2022, following a decision by the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, to switch off feeders supplying power to communities in the 2 municipalities over illegal connections. According to the ECG, some Council Trent residents have tampered with their transformers and reconnected power to their homes after they were disconnected for refusal to accept prepaid meter installation. My colleague Manuel Kranting was in the community to assess how students preparing to write the BC and WASI are coping. Before that, here's a report from Parliament calling for the withdrawal of the military from Yellow Krobo.
The Lower Manya Krobo area has been a hotspot following alleged attacks on ECG officials, following claims by locals that they were being overbilled on their post-paid meters. The resolution to those issues has been to install new prepaid meters. According to the MP, Ebenezer Telabi, there's no need for ECG officials installing prepaid meters to be accompanied by armed military men. He spoke on the floor of Parliament.
In the process, it was agreed that to avert the overbilling and all that happened, the ECG was going to install prepaid meters instead of the postpaid. Mr. Speaker, the agreement was that these prepaid meters, before they extend them to those communities, there must be some community engagement. The military has been deployed. And Mr. Speaker, I believe that we have had enough tension in this country. We have had enough. And there's a need for us to really be very careful when we are deploying these men. Because, Mr. Speaker, I don't know the kind of briefing that they were giving. But then they moved into their homes carrying guns, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I am imploring you to ask whoever brought the military men there to withdraw them.
This call was endorsed by the Majority Leader, Osei Chairman Sabonsu.
Mr. Speaker, I take a cue from what the Deputy Minority Leader has said. Between now and Tuesday, if we have to invite the ministers, you never know what may happen. So perhaps we'll give the directive to invite involving the Minister of Energy, who fortunately has arrived back in the country, Defense and Communication, to put their heads together to say, going forward, what statement to issue to calm down tension in the place between now and Tuesday. If you can amend.
Second Deputy Speaker Andrew Amakwesiama directed Defense Minister Dominic Nitiwo to order a withdrawal of the troops. He also directed the Energy Minister to appear before the House and brief MPs on why the ECG officials are to be accompanied whilst installing new meters.
I accordingly direct that the Honourable Minister for Energy appear before the House next week to tell us what is actually happening in the Menyakrobo area. But meanwhile, we are also directing that the Minister for Defense withdraw the military attaché in the area for the time being.
So Manuel Cranting has been in the Yilo and Lower Menyakrobo municipalities to interact with the people there and finding out how residents are coping without electricity.
The sound of generators revs from a distance, distorting the night chirps by crickets. It's been 5 days since a military-backed task force of the ECG disconnected the entire Sumanya township from the national grid over electricity meters. The impact to everything life. We
Apologies for the bad quality of our clip there. We'll bring you details of that story in our subsequent bulletins. But Member of Parliament for North Tongue, Samuel Kojo is asking Parliament to sanction all 3 MPs who absented themselves for more than 15 days. He says absenteeism should not be glorified, adding any legislator who goes against the rules must be dealt with. Mr. Ablakwa has been addressing students of Simon Diadon University of Business and Integrated Development Studies and some second cycle institutions in Wa. We'll bring you details of that story in our subsequent bulletins. We'll now take a quick break. When we return, we have business for you.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwao. In light of the economic issues, the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana is advising businesses to readjust their marketing plans. According to its president, Dr. Daniel Kasati, Ghanaian businesses should re-examine their marketing mix elements and ensure optimal blend for organizational success. He was speaking at the launch of the 33rd CIMG Annual National Marketing Performance Awards.
The CIMG Annual National Marketing Performance Awards is to honor corporate brands and individual personalities who performed outstandingly within the year under review. At the launch, Dr. Kasati entreated businesses to refrain from cutting marketing budget in hard times, as effective deployment of marketing communications is necessary for stimulating demand for their products.
Today, as we launch the 31st Awards, there is a relative easing of the protocols here in Ghana. But in its place, it's a very hostile economic environment around the globe with severe negative effects on businesses. What the 3 years have in common, though, is an unfriendly macro environment over which individuals, households, businesses, and even governments have no control. As consumers, our purchasing power continues to diminish as inflation soars, thereby limiting our demand for goods and services. It is for these reasons that we call on businesses to take a second look at your business and marketing plans for the year. Reformulate and realign your strategies in the wake of prevailing environmental challenges and difficulties.
Speaking on the awards, Vice President of the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana and Chairman of the Awards Planning and Selection Committee, Theodore Osai, said they will continue to review and introduce new elements to ensure relevance and bring excitement to the awards.
That the CIMG takes pride in several landmark accomplishments which have greatly contributed towards improvements in organizational and professional performances, and especially so for practicing marketers. Being mindful of these achievements, the Institute has resolved to keep the stakes as high and as relevant as possible so that the standards by which we assess individual and corporate performances are not compromised. We are committed to keeping the awards process simple, transparent, and fair. This level of dedication has driven us as a responsive institution to consistently introduce new and progressive ideas geared at adding value to the categories and the processes and the procedures. We have for the past few years adopted an online system of completing the awards questionnaire by nominees, as well as online assessment for the judges.
The CIMG Award has come to be accepted as Ghana's most prestigious and one of the longest-standing local awards since its inception in 1990 for the 1989 financial year.
Now, Chairman of the Board of Directors of ARB Apex Bank, Dr. Tony Orben, is advocating a decentralized system to facilitate quicker retrieval of lost and invalid Ghana cards. The centralized system for replacing the card or rectifying valid details has left many frustrated at regional branches of the National Identification Authority. Speaking at the 20th Annual General Meeting of ARB Apex Bank, Dr. Orben said decentralization is a way to go.
We haven't had serious problem. There could be some teething problem. There are those who have still not received their Ghana cards, and that is a problem. And I believe that this will be addressed. As a country, we need to address that. There are some people who are complaining that they don't have their Ghana cards, and therefore they cannot access their account. But generally, I think for those who have it, there's no problem. We don't have much problem with that. But I believe that there should be opportunity for people to get their Ghana cards. I think maybe the government should decentralize the issuance of Ghana card. I think there's too much of a concentration. So once it is concentrated at one place, everybody troops there. I mean, if you go to the headquarters in Accra, you see a lot of people there coming for their Ghana card. I mean, those people. I mean, those who have misplaced their cards, and people must be careful with this very valuable card. It shouldn't be difficult for you to even go for replacement. Sometimes at a small fee or something, but it should be possible for people to go quickly and get it done. And this can be done by proper decentralization. You cannot, concentrate everything at a few places and expect 30 million people to be able to access that. So in some places, if you lose your passport, for example, you have all the documents, maybe within a day or two, you get a replacement, you see. So I think we should be getting to that level.
And that's business. The news continues after this break.
Welcome back from the break. Let me take you back to the Yilo and Lower Manya Krobo municipalities in the eastern region, where residents have been plunged into darkness since Wednesday, July 27, 2022. My colleague Manuel Cranting has been finding out how residents are coping without electricity.
Pitch black darkness rules over the entire Krobo land. The sound of generators revs from a distance, distorting the night chirps by crickets. It's been 5 days since a military-backed task force of the ECG disconnected the entire Sumanya township from the national grid over pushback against the installation of prepaid electricity meters. The impact, wide and crippling to everything that keeps the town alive.
We hardly iron our dresses. You go to where they have generators, sometimes you pay something little before you can iron. Some of the things you even eat, our fridges are off. The foodstuffs we have in the fridges are all rotten.
If you see the number of students who have to trek from the school, go out, even the security, their safety, it's serious. What we are going through is not a child's play. Whoever is in charge must make sure that power is restored to the good people of this place.
It's a school night, but outside many houses, school-going children sit idle. Some of them even with exams at stake.
SHS3.
SHS3. You're supposed to be writing WASI.
Yeah, we started with our practicals today, so yeah, we are on it.
So you're writing WASI as you're sitting here? Yes, and without lights?
Yeah, we are coping. There's nothing we can do, so because there are no lights, we can't study hard as we are supposed to.
Home is very well. Without lights, there's nothing we are doing. We are just roaming in the night and then things. So if there were to be light by this time, we'll be learning.
They say they are forced to fall on lamps and other light sources for their personal studies.
But the light of, I used to read my book, and I go to school to learn.
We sometimes use torchlight, and sometimes when our phones are on, we use our phones.
But the situation means different things for different people. While many of the residents here are cursing their stars for being in the area at this material time, Innocent and his friends have seen a great business opportunity.
We're just taking advantage of the light out over here. That is not the business we do, but because the light is out over here, the only way they can also charge their phone is to use the generator, which we have the access to generator, so we're using it. And then we are taking 5 cedis for 100 phone, 3 cedis for yam. Because we have to buy fuel and then to generate the generator, that is the reason why we're doing that. We started this yesterday, and let me say, right now if I should calculate the number of phones that we charge, it's going to reach, let me say, 100.
Innocent and his friends are, however, quick to note this business is not sustainable.
That I have the other business that I do with light, and this cannot help me. Of course, I have to buy fuel for everything that I do, which is going to cost me a lot. So the light is much advantageous than using the generator.
So like every other person in the town, he too wants the power restored. Manuel Cranting, JoyNews, Somanya.
All right, it's time for sports, and Mishael is already in the house with details on the table today. Hi, Mishael, good morning.
Hello, Brace, good morning. Hope you're good.
I'm good.
Because I'm sure Azamati is doing well, winning
yeah,
winning the Heat 6 of the ongoing Birmingham games. Yeah, he finished the time of 10.19 seconds, which was, good enough to get him a semi-final place. But there's a little bit of, worry because, once again, he didn't have so much of a good start. And so there's this little arguments whereby if he had faster guys and the Heat would have been able to finish, come out on top of it. So that is what he'll be going to look forward to bettering as we go into the semi-final. So we had two guys in the heats for the 100 meters. He and Sean Sapo-Inch, who is a member of the 4x100 team, but Sean is not going to make it to the semi-final simply because He came in fourth, 10.33, and per the rules of the Birmingham Games, the 100 meters to qualify to the semi-finals is the top 2 from each heat and the best 7 times. So even if you finish 3rd or 4th and you have a very good time, you're going to get into the
semi-finals.
The semi-finals, yes. But with the 10.33, you have to just hope and see if maybe he can make the 7th best time. That's for Sean Stafford Aintree. But yes, Azamati is sitting pretty into the semi-finals. And I won't say this, but with something like the Commonwealth Games, despite there being guys like Omanyala and Simbeni and some of the Jamaican athletes in there, it is where you can hopefully grab a medal on the athletics event, especially for the 100 meters, because why? The US athletes are not in there. You don't have Fred Kelly or Bracey or some of those guys who are at athletics championships, fighting with you in quotes for those places in the 100 meters. So it's a bit even, it evens out a bit, and that is where you can hopefully get one medal since Sean Stafford is already out. So hopefully he can get another good time in the semi-final and move on to the final, finish 3rd, 2nd, or even 1st, and let's see how that goes. So that's for the athletics. But unfortunately for us with the swimming, we had 3 swimmers in today, and Nubia, she finished 7th out of 8 in her event, and not so sure she's going to make it in there. I mean, she's definitely out of that one. So
the concern I've had is the low, investment into the area, and that's why we don't have a lot of good swimmers participating. I'm told we are not investing too much in them. I even saw a post on social media which one of the high jumpers is saying that we shouldn't expect results.
Don't expect medals from places you
have
don't
not
invested in. Yeah.
And so
it's a valid point to make, because even with Fred Kelly won the 100-meter event for the athletics, and then he has been at the events, athletics championships since 2017. He ran the 400 meters in 2017 before slowly easing into the 100 meters where he finally won the gold. Then, so that shows the consistency. That shows the levels whereby he's been there consistently. So if he's going there, there's nothing about this is my first time or just trying it out and see. So there's no excuse not to perform. I mean, the US, they swept 33 medals at the athletics championships. Brilliant, because why they are putting the money. I don't want to talk about that so much, but let's go.
All right.
Let's the final.
Thank you, Michael. And that's how we wrap up today's bulletin. There's more news on myjoyonline.com. My name is Samuel Kojo Brace. Do enjoy the rest of our programs. Have a great morning.